And that's what we need to do again.
Thank you, thank you. Wise words, very wise words. Now, Martin, you've already elaborated on the bigger picture, worldview, etc., just now in your speech. So I'm going to kind of come back. I'm going to ask you, what do you see the role of political parties in this fight against populism? Where do you see yourself as an individual with your vast experience in Europe and also hopefully in your chancellorship in waiting? How do you see Progressive Alliance help the mainstreaming of youth in political leadership, the getting rid of the club of despots in the Asian region? How do you see our political movement and the political party construct in the role of fighting against rising populism?
I think the two prime ministers sitting here, the two prime ministers made two key contributions to Wo muss ich da anfassen? Okay, so geht's besser. Okay, thank you very much. I think the two prime ministers contributed from different approaches to the line I want to elaborate the answer. But before going into my proposals, I want to present some excuses. The Austrian Chancellor Christian Kern had foreseen to join us here in the morning, but as Konstantin Voinov said at the early beginning of our meeting, there is a strike, and for us as socialists, we fought for the right of strike, and the strike here of the ground staff in the Berlin airport led to the fact that he couldn't join us today. So excuse for both the ground staff and the Chancellor of Austria. And Joseph Muscat, the Prime Minister of Malta, he couldn't catch the plane sufficiently early in London so that he couldn't join us today, and asked me also to present his excuses. And yesterday night, Prime Minister Gentiloni from Italy and Prime Minister Bohuslav Sobotka from the Czech Republic were here, but they had linked to duties they couldn't postpone Monday morning. It's normal that a Prime Minister has to be present in his capital, asked me also to present their excuses. They are all with us here in that spirit of international cooperation. And because I missed in my introduction to present these excuses because I was so fascinated about the young fathership of Sigmar Gabriel, I forgot to present the excuses of these colleagues. Antonio Costa spoke about the role of the European Union, and Stéphane Le Pen described what should be the fabric, the network of the basis of that fabric of our society. Mutual respect and decent work. This is exactly what the European Union has to organize internally, within the societies and between the member states of the European Union. And that's the role of the European Union as a worldwide important acting global political and economic player in relation to other parts of the world. The European single market is the biggest market of the world. Everybody in the world wants to get access to that market. And we welcome people to come and to invest in the market, and our goods and services exported from that market to other parts of the world should contribute to two things: to make life of citizens within that market, in the member states of the European Union, safe, on the basis of decent work and job, but access to our market should also be linked to respect of fundamental rules, of environmental rules, of social rights, of decent work in other parts of the world. If we, for example, instead to close borders, open the borders for our markets, but linked to the guarantee of individual rights, so that, for example, textile industry in other parts, in Asia, for example, exporting to the European market should not be based on a race to the bottom, lowest labor standards, lowest salaries, longest working time, and no individual protection via, for example, trade union rights in other parts of the world. Quite clear they are more competitive there than enterprises here. But if we link access to our market to guarantee of fundamental rights, that's for sure not, as it is often described, a kind of European economic imperialism. This is nothing else than to use the instruments of globalization to increase individual rights in other parts of the world. It is the export of values. That's what the European Union should do. And now, to get back to our meeting here, for all this, we need majorities in the democratic countries. In the European Union, we need majorities. We have to win election. As more as we are in office, in power, as more we are able to endorse such strategies as strategy of the European Union, because as a long-serving member of the European Parliament, I can tell you the European Union is not Brussels. The European Union is not the Commission. It's not the European Parliament. First of all, the European Union is built by the member states of the Union. The heads of states and governments, the Council of Heads of States and Governments, where Antonio and Stefan are sitting together with others, is the decisive body. And if we, with our spirit, with our line, have a majority there, it is much easier to change the European Union, and via the European Union, the international development. That's what we have to do. And therefore we must win elections. That's a very, sounds a little bit simple, but
It's not simple.
but it is as simple as such, but it is as necessary as such. And therefore the fight, thank you for chancellorship in waiting. So I'm impatient. I hope that we can do it in Germany and in other countries and can defend our majorities. But this is an important point, and therefore I want to get back to what Stefan said. Being of the same generation, we all being of the same generation, listened all as young socialists. No, I meant Stefan. I spoke about Stefan and Antonio, not about you, Howard. So I'm a little bit older than you. We, Costa, Leuven and myself, being of the same generation, we listened all carefully to what our predecessors, when they gathered, decided, what they gave as messages. And when I, in my introduction, said, let's get back, let's return to that period, to that style of cooperation, because in that time, social democratic leaders, when they were together, they were all chancellors, prime ministers, presidents. Remember that time. That was the time from Olof Palme to Mario Soares. Felipe was the prime minister, as Helmut Schmidt, for example, was the chancellor in Germany, and Willy Brandt the party leader. And Bruno Kreisky was the chancellor, and François Mitterrand, the president of France. When they gathered, there was a real bulk of power together, able to endorse what they really had written on the papers for their programs, to endorse it in real politics. That's what we have to do, and that's the goal of our network here. Not only to sit together and to discuss and to write on papers, but clearly to be committed to endorse, once we are in power, what we promised. We should not underestimate that during years and years and years we had a conservative, liberal, overwhelming majorities in the governments of the member states of the European Union. It is not very well known, but it's a pity. Socialists and Social Democrats, a very long time. I remember, as the group leader of the Socialist group in the European Parliament, that among the 28, heads of states and government, we had only 4. In a certain moment, 4 prime ministers. But the share of responsibility when economy in Europe is flourishing, these are the conservatives. If there is a problem, quite sure socialists are responsible. That should be finished, and we should have a majority. Then we are responsible for what is going well and what is going wrong. And I hope that was a clear answer to your question.